Hey everyone, I'm going to try this again. I don't know what happened on the last time I attempted this, but apparently there was a disconnect or something. But I wanted to talk about WWE for a second. Now I'm not going to do a review here in the 33 minutes I have left for lunch, or 43 minutes I have left for lunch. I'm not going to do a review or anything of Raw and SmackDown, no. But I want to talk about a few things. Last night, Money in the Bank, the women's Money in the Bank rematch occurred. And as a lot of us predicted, Carmella ended up reclaiming it. And how did this happen? It happened by Carmella doing exactly what fans wanted her to do in the first place, so there wouldn't be any BS, and that's climb the ladder herself. True, Ellsworth tried to interfere and repeat what happened before, but that didn't happen thanks to Becky Lynch. And then because of the distraction, Carmella took advantage, knocked Becky Lynch down, and got the briefcase. Now, here's what's interesting about this. I predicted that she was going to knock either Becky or at least two competitors off the ladder by either pushing it or something. And that's exactly what happened. She ended up knocking Becky Lynch down. Now, that's going to lead into a program between her and Lynch, possibly in the near future. Why? Because Becky will have probably have justification saying, look, I had the briefcase, Ellsworth interfered, he wasn't supposed to be in the ring, wasn't even supposed to be in the building, he got in somehow, he tried interfering and doing repeat, and you could lead to a match to, well, maybe Shane and Daniel are like, look, we understand, we totally support your is that you could do a storyline with Daniel Bryan. It's like, look, I totally support what you're saying. And you could have him justify that, look, yes, you're right. Ellsworth injected himself into the match when he wasn't even supposed to be in the building. Yes, he distracted you a little bit for Carmella to take advantage. And yes, Carmella, but he can also say, however, despite that, I have to say that Carmella did legitimately unhook the briefcase. You could lead into something to where he agrees with Becky in the fact that Ellsworth interfered in the match when he wasn't even supposed to be in the building, and you could have him book Carmella against Becky with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line, maybe for Battleground, or for a future WWE SmackDown Live event, or SmackDown Live show, or SummerSlam, or whatever, to where Carmella has to face, to where you could have Becky put Carmella over in the match, so that you could still legitimize Carmella as Miss Money in the Bank, like saying, hey, look, it's no fluke, I don't really need help. So I think this is going to lead to Becky and Carmella feuding over the Money in the Bank briefcase. Well, over the Money in the Bank briefcase, where I can see at least one. They can either have one match, maybe two, whatever, but if anything, a one-off match with the briefcase on the line. I could see that. Now, speaking of Carmella, one thing a lot of people look at with WWE right now is they feel that WWE isn't balanced right. It's not balancing things out. It's not balancing itself correctly when it comes to how it presents itself. I look at it this way. WWE has to realize that they have wrestling in their title, in their name. So what they need to do, mostly Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie, whatever, is they need to basically balance things out to where you go 50-50, sort of hybrid style, to where you give the hardcore, the casual, and the new wrestling fans exactly what your name has implied for years, and that's wrestling. But at the same time, you balance it out by trying to give them good storylines and angles that you want to focus on, but at the same time, while you're balancing that out, you keep that balance by also laying down the foundation for new future rivalries and storylines. For example, I speak of Carmella. There is rumor going around that Lana is going to face Naomi again for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Battleground. Okay, fine. That's cool. However, here's the thing. Depending on the direction that the company goes in, you got Carmella now lying in the wings. You have Carmella lying in the wings to where she could cash in at any time against any champion. So you could say, okay, well, who would they have a cash in on? And you could say, well, they could have a cash in on Lana. And that might make sense, because if you look at it this way, the way they're presenting Lana and the fact that she's getting 3 opportunities, a third opportunity at the Women's Championship, SmackDown Live Women's Championship, shows the fact that they have plans for Lana, bigger plans for her in the future, mostly involving around her being a babyface. You might say, well, they already have what? 4 baby faces or whatever. You know, they already have what? Charlotte, Becky, Naomi. That's true, but you have it unbalanced there. You see, if you take a look at the SmackDown Women's division, you have more heels than you have faces. What better way to balance that out than having someone like Lana go face? And here's why. You could have Lana on her third and probably last opportunity, win the title, and then you could have Carmella come out from nowhere, attack her, cash in, and become champion, and then off you go. Then off you go. You have instantly turned Lana into a sympathetic babyface because of the fact that she's finally achieved her goal, but it was taken away from her just moments, but she's only able to enjoy it momentarily because all of a sudden here comes Carmella taking it away from her, and thus you made Lana a sympathetic babyface, and thus you have a babyface Lana people want to get behind and want to see kick the living crap out of Carmella for what she did. And like I said, off to the races you go, because then you balance things out. You balance them out, if you will. Because you have, in a sense, as crazy as it sounds, you balanced it out. You have Lana now a babyface. You have Carmella as a heel champion. You have Lana chasing her. And you'd be surprised at what you might get out of that. You'd be surprised at what you would get out of that. And honestly, it could be that could be a test for WWE. See, WWE needs to test the grounds with different matchups, different match types. And if one matchup or match type doesn't suit them well, or doesn't come off well, they can pretty much say, okay, screw it, let's get the belt off this person and put it back on this person who we know could have good matches. To me, this is the best way to go. Because when you think about it, you could make Carmella that heel champion that people are going to hate on for the fact that not only not once, but twice did she depend on someone to help her out in James Ellsworth, but you also do it in a sense, but you also play upon that by having her cash in on a new champion like Lana, and Lana becomes sympathetic. I know some people may say that doesn't, well, now I know some people might say, well, wait a minute, Brian, you would have 4 baby faces and 3 heels. Possibly yes. Possibly yes. You would have that instead of 4 heels, 3 baby faces. But here's the thing. Naomi can go off, take some time off, go film what she has to film with her husband, with the Usos and all that. You could have her do that, and it wouldn't hurt her. It wouldn't hurt her in the least. All right, it wouldn't hurt her in the least to go and do that. Now, with that said, like I said, it wouldn't hurt her in the least. Now, with that said, they could also go in this similar direction with Naomi. You can have Naomi for the third time in a row prove without controversy this time that she is the better wrestler and that Lana has no business even challenging for this championship since she doesn't have that much experience. Yes, she has several tricks up her sleeve, don't get me wrong. But this way you could have justification for Naomi basically proving 3 times in a row that Lana doesn't deserve a title shot, shouldn't even have this opportunity, and that she still has much to learn. And then what could happen is you could have Lana, if you want to keep her heel, attack Naomi after the match out of frustration for losing not once, not twice, but for a third time. And then you could have Carmella cash in, and Carmella could become champion, and you can go with your Naomi-Carmella feud. And again, it works off the fact that you're using and basically it works off the fact that you're now going from one rivalry and feud to another. You're going from, Naomi-Lana to Naomi-Carmella, or if they go in the direction I think they would go in, it would be, you would go from Naomi-Lana to Lana-Carmella. It could work. And I think a lot of people would appreciate it either way. But that to me is what WWE needs to do by balancing things out. You need to balance it out by saying, okay, we're going with Naomi by balancing. I mean, this is basically what I said. If you're going to balance things out, you need to balance it out to where you give the wrestling fans the wrestling, but you also, on the other hand, focus on the angles and storylines and characters involved that you want to focus on, but at the same time, slowly build that foundation for the next rivalry to happen afterwards. So afterwards, you could go to Naomi-Carmella. You can go to Lana-Carmella. It all depends on the direction they go to finish out this Naomi-Lana rivalry and feud. That's what needs to happen. That works. That's storytelling 101, because you basically have Naomi and even Lana kind of looking around or being confronted by Carmella, maybe in the weeks to come, building up the battleground, having her indicate that it doesn't matter who's the champion, she's going to walk out with the belt possibly. So you're building that foundation for the next rivalry for one of those ladies. Now, let's take a look at the Raw side of things. The Raw side of things doesn't look as good as SmackDown's, but Raw does have potential here and there. For example, rumor going around is you want to do Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. Here's the thing. You pretty much got a beast right now of a feud and rivalry with Joe and Lesnar. Okay, fine. But here's the question. Where do you go from there? You have Strowman feuding with Reigns. Okay, fine, no problem. Where do you go? Well, it's real simple. You have Braun Strowman focusing on Reigns. You have Joe and Lesnar. Now, storyline-wise, as far as Joe and Lesnar goes, they're doing it correctly. They are basically saying, look, these guys are almost on, if not on, equal terms, on equal levels. Joe nearly choked out Lesnar last night with the Nikita clutch. That shows, from a storyline perspective, that perhaps Lesnar is going to meet his match. And no matter how many German suplexes Lesnar does to Joe, Joe's going to just keep getting back up and trying to lock on that Nikita clutch or put that muscle buster on him or whatever. But then you say, okay, where do you go afterwards? Well, the plan is for Lesnar to face Strowman. It's real simple. You have Lesnar basically be in a battle with Joe. You have Lesnar F5 himself to victory almost out of nowhere. And then you have Strowman, should he be victorious over Reigns, come out and literally attack a wounded Lesnar, hit him with a reverse chokeslam, and make his... how do I put this? Make his point clear that he wants the Universal Championship. And what you do is you go from one legitimate threat, one legitimate challenging threat for Lesnar and Joe, to an even bigger legitimate threat in Strowman. And from a storyline perspective, you can have Heyman come out and say, look, you know, Joe was probably the toughest that Lesnar's ever faced since he's returned to WWE. But now, on equal terms, but now Lesnar, but you can have Heyman acknowledge that now Lesnar's, even as champion, is in a role he's never been in his life, and that's the underdog role. He's in a role where the odds favor Strowman to win over Lesnar. And you could build on that, like, you could have Lesnar for weeks if you want to try to get him on there every week till SummerSlam. Try to F5 Strowman. He just can't because he's too strong and Strowman's not going to allow it. So you got to have a storyline to where Lesnar adapts to the situation. Like, okay, I can't get this guy in the F5. I can probably German suplex him, but I can't get him in the F5. How the heck am I going to beat this guy? And then you realize, wait a minute, there's something else that he has, and that's a submission. He's got that Koji lock, or whatever it's called. That armbar that he puts on people that basically puts them into submission and probably breaks their arm. You could build on that. And what's funny is that could work. That could be like the solution. Like you could, even in the week or two leading up to SummerSlam, you could have him, you know, trap Strowman in that lock, and you can have Strowman get out of there real quickly, like with him favoring his arm, going like with a shocked look on his face, going like, holy crap, that guy could have broke my arm. Making Strowman realize that maybe he doesn't have all the answers for someone like Lesnar. And again, this is storytelling 101, because you take someone like Brock Lesnar from one, like I say, legitimate, realistic threat and challenge in Samoa Joe to an even bigger, legitimate, realistic challenge in Braun Strowman. And again, this is something that could work. This is something that could work because from a realistic standpoint, legitimate standpoint, it would put Lesnar in a position he's never been in before since he's been back, and that's an underdog role. And again, you could have Heyman play on that idea that Lesnar's never been in this position before. He's never been looked at as the underdog. He's never been questioned by people whether or not he could beat someone like Strowman. So to me, this would work. And it's storytelling 101. Because now you have people questioning whether or not he'd be able to beat Joe, or avoid Joe putting him in the coquina clutch and beating him. As well as at the same time, you amplify that doubt by having Strowman be his next opponent, and Strowman basically preventing him for a while from putting the F5 on him. Until SummerSlam, when you have the matchup, and if you're planning to have Lesnar be champion up until next year, have Lesnar F5 Strowman at SummerSlam to everybody's surprise. Now, with that said, Ed, what else does WWE, that said, where would WWE go after Strowman? Well, they could still go with Strowman and Lesnar again for Survivor Series if they wanted to. But then again, you have other challengers. Like, who could be next? Well, if they're planning to push Big Cass to the top, Big Cass legitimately would be the next threat. So that would be probably the direction you want to go in, the path storyline wise. You can have another challenger step up to the plate after Strowman, and that could be Cass. You could have, maybe out of respect, someone like Rollins say, hey, look, in the past I was afraid of you, now I'm not. And you could have Rollins step up and say, I want to face you. And then if you want to do this at Survivor Series, you can finally do Wyatt and Lesnar. Just get it out of your system. It's storyline 101. You go from one threat to another threat, to possibly another legitimate threat with Cass, if you do that, to maybe a match of to a match being done out of respect, and then maybe head to a Survivor Series. You have a match to where you have someone try to play on the fears of Lesnar, but realize Lesnar is not the kind of guy you can manipulate that easily, that you can mess with that easily. That he's not a Randy Orton, he's not a John Cena, and that he's unlike anything Wyatt's ever faced. And it could work, it could legitimately work. And you go with that until you get to Mania. Now, there's also another storyline going on Raw right now as well. And that, I've got about 21 minutes, and that is Alexa Bliss as Raw Women's Champion. You've got her going into a match against Sasha Banks, and you got 1 week to build towards it. These two could really probably be equal to, the talking smack kind of deal, if you will, the corner phrase. These two could be very equal to each other as far as promos go. Now, the rumor going around is they plan to do Alexa and Nia at SummerSlam. The only reason they want to do Alexa and Nia at SummerSlam is to basically give us that OMG, I can't believe it's over that fast, that OMG moment. Kind of, basically, if you go back to the first SummerSlam in 1988, Warrior beat Honky Tonk Man in no time flat. He basically squashed the guy in no time flat to become champion. That is essentially why they want to do Nia and Alexa. They'd want to do a Nia and Alexa due to the fact that either they want to play the David Goliath thing where nobody thinks Alexa can beat her, but yet she surprises people at SummerSlam and does beat Nia, or what you do, or they go in the direction to where Alexa doesn't want to be in this match, she has no choice, and basically it's 1988 all over again, Warrior Honky Tonk Man all over again, with Alexa basically getting squashed by Nia Jax, and Nia Jax becomes champion, and there's your OMG moment at SummerSlam. That's the only reason they would do it, because one, they want to put the belt on Nia finally, and they want to show basically the real reason why Alexa didn't want Nia on her side and not against her, because basically she can't beat Nia. She never could. And that her first run with the Raw Women's title, as far as Nia being champion, would basically be her last for quite some time. Now they could do that. Storyline wise, they could do that by having Alexa go over Sasha Banks. But here's why I think people are predicting Sasha could beat Alexa. Because one, SummerSlam's going to be in Brooklyn. And that pretty much is a hardcore, and pretty much the New York area is a hardcore wrestling conglomerate. It's a hardcore wrestling one of the hardcore wrestling capitals of the United States, if not the world. And pretty much fans are not going to want to see Nia Jax and Alexa one-on-one, knowing, smarking enough, if you will, and that's why I use the word smarking enough, to know that either it's being done to see as a David Goliath, it's either being done as a David Goliath angle to where nobody thinks Alexa can beat her, and she does, or it's just being done as an OMG, oh my god, I can't believe the match is done, is over that quickly. Nia just squashed Alexa and now she's champion, who could beat her kind of moment. It's basically, like I said, it would be like Honky Tonk Man Warrior 1988 all over again. And if you want to go from a women's perspective, it would basically be China Ivory WrestleMania 17 all over again. And that's why they would want this match to happen, to replicate kind of, in a sense, both those matchups, replicate the outcome in a sense, or a similar outcome as to what both those matches replicated. That would be the only reason they would want to do this. Only reason they'd want to do it. But on the other hand, something else could happen. Something could happen at Great Balls of Fire that I don't even think WWE could be prepared for. Oh no, I don't think they could be prepared for this. What could happen at Great Balls of Fire is you could end up having a double turn occur. And what I mean by a double turn is you could have the crowd behind Alexa and you could have them booing Sasha. Why? Because pretty much from a story perspective, if not a smart mark perspective, fans would look at the fans would be upset at the fact that you're putting Alexa up against somebody that's a 3-time champion, and you're basically saying, hey, we're going to make this girl a 4-time champion at the expense of Alexa. Because if they still have any plans to try and salvage the Bayley-Sasha feud or matchup for SummerSlam, sorry about that. But like I said, if they plan to salvage a Bayley-Sasha Banks match for SummerSlam or beyond, then a double turn at Great Balls of Fire would be the direction they would go in. And it could possibly happen, and it wouldn't happen just at the hands of WWE, it could happen at the hands of the fans. Because pretty much they would know that from a betting odd perspective, Sasha would be favored. Because she's a 3-time champion. Alexa has never been in the ring with her. She doesn't know what she's capable of, really. It's never really been that much in the ring with her that much. She doesn't know what she's really capable of. And this could be why fans would turn against Sasha Banks in favor of Alexa. Yeah, you could have Sasha go over if they want to, and they still want to salvage that Sasha Bayley matchup, try to salvage it in some way. And like I said, you could do it in a way that even Bayley, from a storyline perspective, should Sasha beat Alexa, question what got into her. Why did she act the next night? You could have Bayley question what got into her. Why did she go that route? Why did she, let's say, hit Alexa with a chair behind the referee's back and get the win? Because, you know, you could end up doing that. And you could have, you know, Sasha just finally snap and go heel and say, look, I'm just sick and tired of playing the nice girl here. You know, I'm just sick and tired of playing the nice girl. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be me now. I'm not going to be somebody I'm not. I'm going to be me. And what you saw last night when I leveled Alexa with that chair to help me become champion, that was the real me. You know, willing to do whatever it takes to become champion. So you could do that. And storyline perspective, that is, like I said, that's storytelling 101. Because you can have the so-called best friend wonder why her BFF did this. Her BFF did this. You know, even though Alexa has done a lot of terrible things, she didn't deserve a beating like that, especially with the chair. Yeah, so you can go from there. And in a sense, by double turn, you have both ladies swap places. Because the fans want to cheer Alexa. They want to cheer Alexa Bliss. They don't want to boo her. And thus you put Alexa as a baby face, and you put Sasha as the heel, and off you go. Off you go. It would work. And again, that's storytelling 101. I know it sounds strange, but that could work. Now, as far as any other potential storytelling that you want to mix in with the wrestling, you want to keep it balanced, you have the Miz's entourage. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas along with Maurice. How would you work this out? Real simple. You got the Miz taking on Dean Ambrose at Great Balls of Fire. Dean Ambrose is probably not going to win the Intercontinental Championship. If he does, then why did you put the entourage for Miz together? Why did you put this new faction together? It doesn't make sense. So the best thing is for Miz to retain the championship, right? But then you have the Miz help in return. If you want to keep this entourage going, you have the Miz kind of help out Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. Because why would you put Axel and Dallas in a group with Miz unless you're planning to make them a tag team? Because you have nothing else planned for them. It works. And you know what? It's kind of a callback. Yeah, it's kind of a callback because back in WCW, Curtis's dad, Curt Hennig, in the last few years, I think in 99, I believe, 99, around 99, Axel's dad, Curt Hennig, was teamed with Bo Dallas's dad, uncle, Barry Windham. So, genetically, it works. Genetically and storyline-wise, it works. Because then you'd have an updated version of the Hennig-Windham team from WCW that became tag team champions in the entourage with Axel and Dallas. And like I say, storyline-wise, and it makes sense, is you have the Miz repay Axel and Dallas for helping him out in retaining his championship, being part of his group, by helping him get a tag team title shot. And if you really want to get behind this entourage group, if you're not just having it there for a joke, a comedy act, then you have Axel and Dallas eventually win the tag team titles. But the only way you do that is by having the Hardys become the champions, and off to the races you go. What I'm trying to point out is it makes more sense. Storyline-wise, these ideas, these suggestions, these directions that WWE from both Raw and SmackDown perspectives need to go in are the best options, and they make more sense. I mean, even from the SmackDown side of things, you could say Jinder Mahal is going to beat Randy Orton in the Punjabi prison match. And yes, he will, probably, because it's Punjabi prison. Randy's never been in it. And storyline-wise, Jinder would know the way around it. It makes sense. It makes sense for Jinder to know his way around it. Seeing as though his storyline brother-in-law or cousin, the Great Khali, is the one that incorporated it into WWE. And speaking of which, with him name-dropping Khali, I think we might get a Great Khali appearance or return very soon. I don't know why. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, you know, you could have Jinder beat him. Now, people say that people are speculating that Jinder's run as champion may not last long, because if he goes up against John Cena at SummerSlam, then Cena's going to break the record and become a 17-time champion. He's going to break Ric Flair's record, if you will, of 16 titles and become a 17-time champion. And by becoming a 17-time champion, from a storyline perspective, that leads us in to possibly a rivalry with Baron Corbin, because you go from John Cena on the 4th of July coming out and maybe saying, hey, I never got a legit rematch. Well, he did get a rematch. What am I talking about? Or did he get a legit rematch? I can't remember. I think he did. But you could have John Cena basically say he's here to announce, he's here not only because of the 4th of July, but he's here to announce with the blessing of Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, that he is going to challenge the winner of the Punjabi prison match at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. And again, storyline wise, that works because you have John Cena having an invested interest in the Punjabi prison, because one, if he faces Randy, he knows what he's getting himself into, and he knows they could put on a decent matchup, despite what people may say, because they know each other very well. But then you could have him say, I faced Jinder a few times, and you can have him say the same thing other people have said, like, hey, Jinder's a different person now than I faced before, so I know he could be a threat. I know he'll be tough. He's a different man. He's a changed man. He's more determined. He's more focused. You could have John say that. And then if you go with Randy putting over Jinder for the 3rd time in the Punjabi prison, you can have, you go from that, you basically go from there right into John Cena, Jinder Mahal for SummerSlam. Thus, you've already laid the foundations for that, and now you're going to go into that after Battleground. And then, after that, and then at SummerSlam, and then as you get ready for that, just like with Carmella, you have Baron Corbin waiting in the wings. You have Baron Corbin acknowledge, hey, it doesn't matter who's the champion at SummerSlam, I'm going to cash in one way or another. You have him waiting in the wings. And thus, if the plan is for John Cena at SummerSlam to break the record, then after he wins, moments after he becomes the 17-time champion, moments after he becomes a 17-time champion, you have Baron attack him from behind. You have Baron's music hit. Baron comes out of the crowd or something like that, attacks him from behind, hands the briefcase to the ref rings the bell, he hits the end of days, Baron becomes champion, and if you want to, that leads you in to a Baron Corbin John Cena rivalry, even if it's for 1 or 2 pay-per-views. It leads you right into that because you've laid the foundation for him challenging whoever the winner is of the Punjabi prison. Then after that, you go on to SummerSlam, where John will face possibly Jinder, as the plan's going to be. And thus as you're now building towards that, you've laid the foundation now for Corbin to basically tell both men, hey, I'm going to cash in on either one of you. It doesn't matter who's champion. And then at SummerSlam, you make that happen by having him cash in on John Cena. Because from a WWE story perspective, that's the biggest babyface to cash in on. That is the biggest babyface to cash in on is John Cena. And you could justify it by showing all the young John Cena fans, kids and women and children, being like, oh my God, this lone wolf who doesn't care about anybody but himself just took out John Cena. He just beat him. How? You could have that work, and it would. It definitely would. Now you might say, but fans may cheer Baron for doing that. Oh yeah, fans will cheer him, there's no doubt. But fans, especially hardcore fans, have a good memory. And if they remember him beating down on someone like Shinsuke Nakamura, then there you go. That would probably give John Cena a little bit of favoritism with the crowd. Because he'd be going up against a guy that basically, hey, doesn't care about anyone but himself. You know, and you could even have them acknowledge that to the fans, like say, hey, yeah, I beat John and you cheer, but I don't need your cheers. I never cared about you guys. So, storyline wise, this helps balance things out, because you go from one storyline to another. You balance it out with the wrestling that fans want that comes from it, and it works in the end. It doesn't have to be rocket science, folks. What it has to do is make sense. And that's what WWE needs to do. They need to balance it out. And a lot of these ideas for storyline and angles that they're currently doing and what they could lead into are the best options for them. And these being the best options helps them lead into potential wrestling matchups that fans want to see, or at least will be invested in the long term. And it balances things out in the long term as well. So that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna head back into work now. I spent about my whole lunch doing this. Probably get something to eat during my last break. But let me know what you guys think about it. Hashtag make wrestling fun again. And let me know what you guys think down below. Talk to y'all later. Thank you all for watching live. I am out.